Bryce Miller has officially landed on the IL. We'll tell you how the Mariners should work around having yet another replacement pitcher in their rotation coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So Bryce Miller is officially on the IL. Jonathan Diaz is now up and for now is slated to start game one of this weekend series with the Padres, but I have some thoughts on that. We'll get into that. We'll also talk more about what we saw in that 1-5 homestand and how the Mariners can survive this upcoming stretch. But yesterday, before the game, the Mariners officially placed Bryce Miller on the injured list, 15-day injured list, retroactive to May 12th with right elbow inflammation, which when you hear that, that kind of sends off some alarms. But Justin Hollander hopped on with Bump and Stacy on 710 Seattle Sports shortly after the news came out and said that this isn't something that they're super concerned about. The inflammation is on the backside of his arm. It's not in the same vicinity as his UCL or anything. And they feel like he'll be back once his 15 days are up. So to me, listening to Hollander say that kind of makes me think that this is a phantom IL type of situation. And we talked about this, that they needed to give Bryce some sort of reprieve here, whether it was mental, physical, or both. And it seems like they're doing just that. Bryce also talked to the media yesterday and said that this has been something that he's been dealing with all the way back to the off season. Apparently it kind of went away during the spring, so he didn't really say anything. And then it cropped back up once the regular season started, and has been something that just hasn't completely gone away and typically flares up a couple of innings into his start, which aligns with what he said after his start on Sunday about him dealing with something during the third and fourth inning against the Blue Jays. So so again, this kind of seems like a way to just give him a bit of a break. And that was absolutely necessary, I felt, and you feel the same way, right?
Yeah. If it wasn't the elbow thing, they could have put him on the IL with a back thing or whatever. It's very clear that Bryce is somewhat physically hampered, and that would, to me, lead to the mechanics being out of whack, and then of course the mental game of like I can't do what I would need to do because physically I can't get to where I want to get to, and then it's that big vicious circle of physical limitations lead to mental limitations, and it just goes around and around and around. So yeah, very clearly they needed to give him a break. They could have demoted him and had him back in 10 days, but I think they're just looking at this and going like, let's give him just 2 straight weeks where he just.
Do you think from like a pride standpoint, sending him down would make the confidence issues worse?
I would hope not, because I would hope that Bryce, would understand that like this is, like the reason I'm struggling right now is because I'm not bouncing back. I'm not healthy, and that is what. And it's just like anything else. If you're not feeling 100% and you go out there and try to do something, your performance is going to be hampered no matter what it is, because the back of your mind is always trying to compensate for what you're not doing well. And so, I don't know. It's tough to drive, to jump into the mind of professional athletes, of anybody really, but especially anybody who does something at a super high level. And Bryce is, this is the first time really in his entire career he's had any kind of extended struggle, pretty much since being drafted. He's been incredibly durable. I think this is his first IL stint. They might have put him on the IL the last game of last year.
He had a blister or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, he didn't start because they had been eliminated. Like, this is the first time he'll actually be like struggling and missing time So yeah, it's a challenge for him. We've seen a lot of, professional athletes. They're the best player on their team for most of their lives, and then the first time they struggle, it's some don't climb out of it. Jared Kelnick and others do, and they get better for it. And I think Bryce is, again, because he's already had success at the big league level, he knows he can do it. I think that probably helps him in the long run. But for now, it's very clear he needed to just kind of get away from everything. And we'll see if he's with the club on the road or if they just want him to stay home and kind of, relax and try and get right, both physically and mentally. And
yeah.
We'll see if he is indeed back up when his time is up. But yeah, it was very clear they had to do something here because Bryce he's struggling to survive on a big league mound now. He's not even really competing. And so something needed to be done. And unfortunately, it's bad timing for the team and all that, but it is what it is. And you got to look out for the player sometimes over the team.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he throws at all over the next week or so. If he throws a bullpen, maybe live BP, what have you. But he got the cortisone shot on Tuesday, Hollander said. So we'll see if this just kind of nips the inflammation finally in the bud. But yeah, very interesting that they think that he's going to be able to come back after his 15 days are up. So I assume that he's going to throw at least at some point here in the next few days, because he can't just completely shut down from throwing for 2 weeks and then you throw him right back into a major league game.
Yeah, we'll see how intensive the throwing program is, but I would assume for the next 10 days he's not even really going to touch a baseball, and then they'll go from there. But and we'll see what the plan is. But clearly they needed to do something because Bryce is not 100% physically or mentally or mechanically, and so they needed to find a way to reset, and they decided to do it now. And thankfully, again, it does look like George is going to be ready to go on this next road trip, and so they probably only have to use Diaz once. Which is a nice bonus.
Yeah, so hopefully this fixes whatever is going on with him. Obviously, it sucks because it happens to fall in line with Kirby and Gilbert still being on the IL. At the very least for another week with regards to Kirby, like you said. Now you have 3 replacement pitchers in your rotation at the moment. We've talked about this, but the Mariners have been historically incredibly cautious with their pitchers, and it's May. It's the middle of May, right? There's still a long ways to go. Probably need to get out ahead of this while you can. And so that's exactly what they're doing here. So hopefully that pays off and they're able to get Bryce right. But yeah, we got to talk about, how they proceed here for the next couple weeks while they have Jonathan Diaz and Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans in their rotation, but specifically Diaz until Kirby is able to get back, because I assume that he's going to be the corresponding move once Kirby is activated off of the injured list. We'll talk about how they should deploy him, because right now he's slated to pitch tomorrow in Game 1 against the Padres. I don't think that should happen, and I'll tell you why coming up here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So again, Jonathan Diaz is slated to pitch tomorrow in Game 1 against the Padres out of the Bryce Miller spot. And the Mariners projected starters against one of the best teams in baseball this weekend are Diaz, Logan Evans, and Emerson Hancock. Hey, so you got the off day today. Make use of it. I get that it's May. However, You're playing the White Sox after this series. Push Jonathan Diaz to the White Sox series. Bring up Bryan Woo to pitch the final game of this series. Have Logan Evans pitch tomorrow. Hancock Saturday. Bryan Woo on Sunday.
Yeah. It also doesn't prevent. It also allows you to have Woo pitch against the Padres and the Astros. And now, I mean, he'd still be pitching against the Astros, right? 4-game series in Houston. He'd still be pitching against the Astros either way, but why waste a Bryan Woo start against the White Sox? Like,
I'd rather take my chances with Jonathan Diaz against the White Sox.
Yeah. I really don't think you want to go 1-8 over a 9-game stretch. And if you start these 3 guys in a row against the Padres,
the likelihood of that happening is very high. It's very high.
Right. Like, you're already going to have a hard enough time winning this series with Evans and Hancock both pitching in it.
Yeah.
To triple down and go with Jonathan Diaz, who's worse than both of them.
Yeah. Plus, like, it's not like the Padres are really starting anyone that's the equivalent of that. Like, maybe Steven Kolek, but Kolek has had a good start this year. Now, one of those starts was a complete game shutout against the Rockies, but he also had a good start against the Pirates. Okay. My point being, though, is that Steven Kolek hasn't given up a run yet this year.
I mean, to be fair, the way you're swinging the bat, you basically are the Rockies offense, the way you swung the bat the last, 3 days. So.
But it's Michael King and Nick Pivetta the next 2 games after that. Actually, I think it's in reverse order, but yeah, it's Pivetta and King.
Either way.
The next 2 games, like, those guys, they're not aces, but they're really good. So so you're at a disadvantage on the pitching front in a big way, really, no matter what. But yeah, don't waste Bryan Woo on the White Sox. Let him pitch against the Padres. Take your chances with Jonathan Diaz against Chicago.
I suppose they could, like, let Diaz start on Friday and then just move Hancock or Evans, and Woo can start on Saturday instead of Sunday or whatever. But, like,
sure,
it's you shouldn't let Diaz, Evans, and Hancock pitch back-to-back games ever.
And by the way, if you're worried about, like, having these guys pitch a day earlier, when you call up George, and when you activate George to, I assume, take Diaz's spot in the rotation, you can push everyone back, because that's not going to line up with your rotation. So you can push everyone back a day.
Right. I mean, plus you also have to consider the strain on the bullpen that you're going to have. These 3 guys, you're going to be really lucky to get 5 innings apiece out of them. And, you don't have any off days on this road trip. Today is that there is no reset day. And if these 3 guys all go 5 or less, then you're talking about your bullpen covering 12. I mean, I don't care if you're playing the White Sox or the Rockies or whatever. If your bullpen is throwing 12 innings minimum, before that series starts, it's going to seriously cut, especially since, as much as we trust Woo and Castillo, they've had outings where they haven't been able to get particularly deep either. And so you're kind of sitting there like, man, how badly do we want this bullpen to be beat up? And there's just not a lot of moves you can make to go and acquire fresh arms to bring into your bullpen right now, because nobody in AAA is throwing the ball that, like, right now, the guy you call up from AAA, probably Will Klein, like that's pretty much what's there. And so, I think there's a real risk here that you kind of sabotage the bullpen a little bit for the rest of this road trip by having these 3 guys line up. And we know that the Mariners bullpen isn't that deep. It's Diaz, it's Munoz, and then it's Spire, big step down to Spire, and he's still good, but whatever, he's susceptible. And then it's Brash, who probably going to be able to pitch in 1 of these games this weekend. And then it's Vargas and Snyder, who have been fine. They're middle guys, but, like, if you have to cover 4 innings a night, they're going to be put in high leverage situations that they shouldn't be put in. And so, there is a trickle down effect by having all 3 of these guys pitch in the same series as well. I mean, at least with Woo, you feel pretty good that you're going to get 6 out of Bryan Woo. And then, you never know with Emerson. Maybe he's got the 55 command and control and he can go 6, but maybe he's got 45 and he goes 4 1/3 and gives up 5-6 runs. Like that's also a real possibility. And so, yeah, I don't think you can have Diaz, Hancock, and Evans make all 3 starts in this series. At that point, you're begging to get swept, and you got to start turning this thing around. Like you're not. It's not a disaster area right now because again, it's only May 15th. But 1-8 stretches.
Has a 1-8 stretch. Bad. Yeah, has a 1-8 stretch ever hurt the Mariners?
Yeah, no, nothing comes to mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you have a tough road trip here again. No days off after today, and you're not going to have the pitching advantage all weekend, essentially. And so it's very important that you beat up on the White Sox, but you got to find a way to win a game or 2 here this weekend. And I don't think you can do that, realistically expect to do that if you're rolling with Diaz, Hancock, and Evans all in a row.
Yeah. And again, like if you're concerned about not giving everyone the extra day that they would otherwise get with this off day, you can give it to them next week by putting Kirby in the rotation.
Yep.
So you're just delaying that by a week. And honestly, that might be more beneficial to them because that's going to be in the middle of the long road trip rather than at the start. So yeah, that's what I would do. I think that's the most beneficial route for this team to take, to try and stop the bleeding here. Because otherwise, I can very easily see this thing get ugly. And it puts just so much pressure on your bullpen, and it puts so much pressure on your offense, which is really beat up right now. We'll see if JP Crawford is able to play this weekend. Doesn't seem like that serious of a thing. The way Dan described it yesterday, shoulder tightness. They'll have back-to-back days with yesterday and now the day off today. So hopefully he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. But yeah, if like you also don't have JP on top of all the other guys you're missing in that lineup, like woof, you're going to be asking them to probably have to score 5 or 6 runs against that.
Against Nick Pivetta and Michael King and
yeah, well, and even if you're able to get to Stephen Kolek, then you have to face that Padres bullpen. You have to face guys like Robert Suarez who have been awesome this year. So. Yeah, it's just a lot that you're going to be asking of and now you're going to be asking this of your offense and your bullpen anyway, even if you do bump up Woo to that final game, because Evans and Hancock are starting the other 2 games, presumably, or maybe, Diaz and Evans are starting the 2 games. Maybe they push Hancock back, whatever the route they might choose. It's still pretty much the same issue, but yeah, if you want to put yourself in the best position to at least win one of these games, you need to push Bryan Woo into one of those slots. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So let's reflect on this 1-5 homestand a little bit and just talk about how the Mariners are going to have to survive this long road trip. Now, they get like a little bit of a reprieve in between the Padres and Astros series with a series against the White Sox, who are obviously really bad, but they're Major League Baseball team, kind of. So you don't want to mess around too much there.
They're better than they were last year.
They're better than the Rockies.
Yes. And the Pirates, I think, statistically.
Are they better than the Pirates?
I think they might be. It's close.
Oh, wow.
It's close. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have to face Andrew Benintendi if that matters to you. But
how is he doing this year?
Well, I mean, he's hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is that like if he was healthy? If he was healthy, would that actually be like? Is that someone that we should miss? 98 WRC plus, I guess. I mean, relative to the rest of the White Sox, sure.
You're running Donovan Solano out there. That's really good.
Yeah.
So Miles Mastrobuoni was your leadoff hitter yesterday. That's really good. 98.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and Andrew Benintendi is what 37% better than Miles Mastrobuoni. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, again, and then you have what, 4? Do you play the White Sox for 4 or the Astros for 4? I think it's the Astros for 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Astros for 4.
Yeah.
I would love it if it was the White Sox for 4, but yeah, pretty sure it's the Astros.
I mean,
because it's White Sox Monday through. Yeah, because Kirby's going to start Thursday against the Astros.
The Astros. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be real nice if this team could do what the Rangers got, and they just got a 3-game series against the Rockies handed to them in the middle of their struggles. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you take what you can get, but yeah, it's going to be a rough road trip either way, because I really don't care. Like the White Sox, they're not good, but if you're not playing good baseball, that could be a disastrous series for you. So, and right now the Mariners are not playing particularly good baseball.
No, and the Mariners offense scored 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 5 on the homestand. So the offense has regressed quite a bit. And it's really because the bottom of the lineup hasn't been able to come through as much. Now also the top of the lineup had some issues as well over the course of the homestand. But again, when the top of the lineup has had some issues over the course of the year, we've talked about this, the bottom of the lineup has been able to pick up the slack, but we were waiting for that to regress, and it seems like that has happened now. So now it's on JP Crawford and Jorge Polanco and Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh to pick things up here and start leading the charge. And that's exactly what the Mariners are going to need to have happen on this road trip, especially in this upcoming series against the Padres, if they're going to have any shot here, because of what we just talked about with the pitching matchups. Colby, there's something that happened on the homestand though that I just can't get over. It's this. Kirk Cousins was apparently at the game on Tuesday, fully decked out in Mariners gear, by the way. Now, people have been quick to point out that, Kirk's cousin, as funny as that is, Jake Cousins, is a member of the Yankees. He's in the Yankees bullpen. However, he's on the 60-day IL, so I don't imagine that he is traveling with the team right now. Maybe he is. But even then, even if Kirk's out there to support his cousin, which again is hilarious to say out loud, why is he in Mariners gear?
I mean, welcome to Locked On Seahawks. Very clearly, the Seahawks are about to have the funniest quarterback room of all time.
They're like, you know what? The last 2 Vikings starting quarterbacks, we want that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, like, don't forget, Daniel Jones will probably be a tryout player here at some point. So there you go.
Sure. Sure. Yep.
But
might as well get like Case Keenum in here. Sean Hill.
Very clearly, the Falcons have traded Kirk Cousins, paying down his entire salary with a first-round pick to the Seahawks for a 7th, because that's the kind of quality of a franchise the Atlanta Falcons are.
Chills. But yeah, that was weird. Anywho, so what do you make of the Mariners homestand overall? What concerned you the most about that 1-5 homestand?
The offense.
Yeah.
Like, by default. I mean, I think at this stage we have to accept that the starting pitching in the state that it's in right now is just not good. Like it's unfortunate, but it's not good. And on any given night, like the floor is that you give up 9-10 runs and you don't really even have a shot to win the game. And on most nights, the ceiling is maybe they go 5 or 6 and they only give up 3 or 4 and we have a shot to win. And so, that'll change hopefully pretty quick here with George re-entering the rotation. And, we'll continue to monitor Logan and all of that. They continue to be super optimistic about him. And then Bryce, who knows, but there's still a couple big question marks there. But, yeah, and in the bullpen, it is what it is at this stage. Like there's one super high leverage guy that you trust, and then there's, I would say, 2 that you mostly trust, but for various reasons you don't. Brash and Spire, you mostly trust them, but Spire is, not elite right now, and Brash is coming off of the injury, and he's still trying to figure some things out as well. But then after that, it's just a bunch of middle guys, and then there's also a couple guys in this bullpen who they're just not good. Like Troy Taylor is just not good. So yeah, I think that is what it is. It's the offense that you're worried about, and it's the offense that really carried you in that 9 series win streak, and the offense just didn't appear really at all this entire homestand. Now, the first game against the Blue Jays, we chalked that up to a lot of bad luck. They had like 18 hard hit balls, and they had 8 balls that were put in play at over 100 miles an hour that were outs and all of that. They had base runners everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. wasn't that good the next night. It was terrible on Sunday. Then the offense was pretty good on Friday or on Monday. But again, that was mostly due to a late homer off of Tim Hill by Cal Raleigh to give him 5, which is a respectable number. And then the offense was abysmal for 20 innings in the last 2 games. And
I mean, like they were pretty good against Fried in terms of just frustrating Fried, dragging out long at bats, making sure that they got him out of the game.
Thank goodness they did, because the 0-6 homestand would have felt a lot worse than the 1-5. And yesterday is kind of one of those ones where it's like, yeah, you could have won that game and you could have had, what if you had found a way to win that game? Then the conversation we're having today is probably a lot different, but you didn't. And in large part, the reason you didn't is because your offense sucked. And, the pitching, they gave up 4 runs to the Yankees in 20 innings, and you split those 2 games. Like that's on the offense any way you want to slice it. So the offense is the most concerning thing. And it's because, Polo's really fallen back down to earth over the last couple of weeks, as we knew he would. Cal's not hitting a home run every other game anymore, which again, we knew was going to happen. He's still getting on base because the Blue Jays are terrified to pitch to him. Which finally they figured that out. Give them that at least. Julio and Randy have both been good, solid, but not like otherworldly in this stretch. And like you said, the bottom of the order just hasn't really picked it up. And the league's made an adjustment to Williamson. The Mariners are continuing to ride with Miles Mastrobuoni over Leo Rivas, which I really don't get. And obviously Dylan Moore has also slowed down. So just a bunch of guys who were off to incredible starts. They finally, hit a skid and we all knew it was going to happen. And unfortunately they all seem to hit it at the exact same time, which is not what you want. That's not really survivable.
And that's something that we saw a lot last year. A lot of guys slumping at the very exact same time. So the key to me, the biggest key on this road trip for me, though, is getting starts out of Bryan Woo and Luis Castillo that are at least close to what you got this last turn through the rotation. Like, you need those guys to be the stabilizers right now, especially when you're going to be rolling out at least one turn through the rotation: Jonathan Diaz, Logan Evans, and Emerson Hancock. And who knows what George Kirby is going to look like when he gets back. Maybe he's the George Kirby we know and love, but at the very least, he's probably going to be short scripted to a certain degree. So, he might only be able to go 4 or 5. Pitches. Yeah. Depending on how, frustrating the Astros are on that particular night. So, it might be a quick outing for him, and then that puts more pressure on the bullpen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you need Bryan Woo and Luis Castillo to do about as close as they did against the Yankees these last couple of days.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame that Luis and Brian got overshadowed by what happened after they left the game, because they were both really, really good. And especially
Woo was incredibly impressive when, again, you're going up against the best offense in the game, the best fastball hitting offense in the game. And he's just throwing fastballs and daring them to hit it like he always does. Right.
I do what I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it bites me. Sometimes, but most of the time,
I'm not going to change though. I'm not going to change. Yeah.
Nope. And then again, like Castillo was really good yesterday. I mean, interestingly good, because he gave up a lot of hard contact. But he got a ton of big strikeouts, a ton of big whiffs, and we definitely saw a kind of like a tweak a little bit in how Castillo attacked guys yesterday. And it ended up with him being fastball heavy, which he normally is, but it was because of the slider early and all that. And Woo, like you said, just going right after guys, like no fear of throwing his stuff in the strike zone. And it's a bummer that the 2 games, kind of dictated that those 2 players be overshadowed, because they did everything they possibly could to hand the Mariners a series they had no business winning. And unfortunately they just didn't get enough help on Wednesday to get that done, but so it goes.
Yeah. So you need Woo and Castillo to go at least 6 and give up, hopefully 3 or fewer over those 6.
I think, you're going to have to start asking Hancock to do that as well. They've been very resistant to letting him face the lineup for the 3rd time. I get it. But you have to protect your bullpen a little bit here. So
and
sometimes you got to push it.
Yeah, and as scary as this is to say, he's your third best pitcher right now. So you kind of have to ask him to do, that kind of stuff right now, just with how things are. Once Kirby gets back and once he gets settled in, then not as much. But for at least the next couple weeks, Hancock kind of has to be that third dude in the rotation until Kirby's able to just kind of go without any sort of leash on him.
Yay.
Yeah, we're in a rough spot right now. Hopefully Logan Gilbert gets back soon. Hopefully the optimistic timeline they put on him is actually real. Because
that'd be great.
Yeah. Woof. All right, that's going to do it for our show. Tomorrow, we are going to be joined by the great Gary Hill. Colby and I are actually going to be talking to him here in the next hour or so. But you guys will hear that tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11 and CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.